Hey, CrossFit friends, good to touch base with you on this Thursday update. And I know that this sheltering in place is getting old and we long to be with each other and have fellowship and community. I actually think that's a good thing. We're going to talk about that in just a second. I'm actually, Sherry and I met with our small group last night, but we had to do it, online. And so there were four couples that logged in. It was very awkward. It was very strange. But one of the guys, it was good because, we got to pray with each other and we got to fellowship, kind of. You know what I'm talking about. But there was one guy in our group that he's an EMT. And man, God bless those first responders because his job is really quite difficult these days. He was telling us story after story of people, when they arrive on the scene, there's COVID-19. And so they have to suit up and mask up and it's quite dangerous. And so I just asked him, I said, so what do you think of this pandemic? It's all over the place. Some people think it's a hoax, not so serious. Other people are very panicked. And I said, what's your opinion being on the front line? He said, coronavirus 19 has a 3% mortality rate. And then I said, well, how does that compare? He said, the flu is a little less than 1%. So 3%. He said, it doesn't seem like much, but it's actually quite high. And then he gave me this illustration. He said, I think about a package of Skittles. He said, if somebody told you that in your packet of Skittles, 3 of the Skittles would kill you, how would you approach that bag of Skittles? Would you even eat it or at least take great precaution, right? Thought it was a great reminder. But as we were gathered electronically, via GoToMeeting, small group meeting, we were all reminded of how really we're getting kind of desperate for fellowship and for community. And this forced isolation, the sheltering in place, it is causing a lot of depression, anxiety, stress, just this emotional upheaval. And so a lot of the experts are going on TV and online and giving advice. And I think it's great advice. But I want to add some biblical advice to that. So I started thinking about Peter, who was also in an emotional, stressful, bit of a darkness. He had just betrayed Jesus 3 times, and then he meets up with Jesus on a beach. And here's what Jesus does to kind of pull him out of the funk. Jesus goes, Peter, do you love me? Peter goes, well, Lord, sure, yes, absolutely, I love you. Jesus says, well, then feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? And Peter, it's almost like he's exasperated, but he finally goes, yes, Lord, I love you. And Jesus says for the 3rd time, driving it home, then feed my sheep. I think it's great advice for all of us who are, in a bit of that fog. And even as I look out the window, there are blue skies and there are clouds, but there's not a lot of people outside. It's almost like they're telling us, shelter in place, don't go outside. And man, being stuck, even if you do go outside, just being, in lockdown and you can't go to places, it just causes a lot of stress. And maybe one of the things that we are to do is to love, feed, and care for the sheep. Maybe a biblical way of staving off depression is to think how we can love and feed and care for sheep, God's people, right? When you're on a plane, and I'm going to take you back to normal life, when you got on a plane and you're getting ready to take off, one of the first things they do is to tell you that in case of emergency, oxygen masks will drop, and you know the drill, right? You are to put yours on first before you help somebody else. And I think that's very true in our current situation. Like we are, as Jesus followers, to plug into him first, like sit in his presence. I'm going to just keep driving that home. Sit in his presence first, hear from him, and then start feeding and helping and caring for people around you. Last Sunday, after the service, there was a lady there, a single mom, who was helping serve the team of people that were doing the live stream service, and she was making coffee. And but afterwards, I spoke to her at a social distance, 6 feet apart way, and she was telling me that she's a single mom and she's a little tenuous on taking care of her daughter, but she says I'm more anxious about the people around me. Because I just want to feed and care and love for the people around me. And man, I think that is the absolute way to approach this. Listen, this Sunday, Brian Forney, He's going to be teaching, and I can't wait because Brian is always creative. He has such a pastor's heart for Crossview and beyond. And this is so cool. He is teaching in God's timing. He's teaching on fellowship. This is the last message in our This Is Us series. Brian's going to teach on fellowship, and I think there's going to be some really cool things that you'll want to hear. I asked Brian, just give us a taste. So listen to Brian's little video clip, and then I'll come out and finish.
Hey, Crossview. I'm looking forward to Sunday. I hope you are too. I just got done interviewing my family. We sat down and we talked about what the last couple of weeks has looked like, what it's been like to be together as a family in this age of social distancing. We've talked about what God might be teaching us through this time. I'm excited to share that interview with you. I'm excited to talk with you about the topic of fellowship, what that word even means, and what that looks like for our church, as a family, and as a community, especially during this time that we're in together. I hope you'll join us Sunday. Look forward to talking to you then. Bye.
May we never forget the lessons that we're learning during this pandemic, the need, the hunger for fellowship, like our desire for community, our wanting to fellowship together, like what Brian will be teaching this Sunday. May we never forget how hungry we are now when someday the COVID-19 fog lifts. We just need to learn these lessons, right? The elders have initiated a shepherding initiative to love, feed, and care for the sheep. We've taken, as many names as we have in the database and beyond, and said, now let's go check on everybody. So each elder has a group of people. I have a group of people, and maybe you've got a broad email from the church. Maybe you've gotten your email from an elder or from me, and we're just checking in. We just want to see how you're doing. You can email us proactively to let us know how you're doing. We also want to know if you have any neighbors that have needs, but we just want to shepherd and care and love for the sheep. Now, here's what inevitably will happen. Shepherds are sheep too, right? So these are broken guys that are just as messy. So you may not get a response as quick as you like, or maybe you don't hear back from somebody. So let that frustration, if that happens, I hope it doesn't happen, but if that happens, let that frustration point you to a greater shepherd that's taking care of you. And when you're shepherded, cared for, loved by the elders, let that also point you to loving and caring for and feeding, and helping the people around you. All right. Couple practical ideas. Take a wrapped roll of toilet paper. Very valuable these days. Take a wrapped roll of toilet paper, walk it across the street to your neighbor, just blow them away. They may not need it. Maybe they do. I don't know. But just tell them you're thinking about them. And I think that'd be cool. I think you can make masks for the hospitals if you're trying to figure out, well, how do I creatively during this time, feed and love and care for people. They're saying that these cloth masks, and I think there are patterns online, with elastic and a piece of cloth. They put these over top of the sterile mask, and so doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, they can actually use their sterile mask a few more times and then just wash the cloth mask. So, think about that. How about this? Check on our teenagers. Anybody thought about teenagers lately? Maybe you have some in your house, but I know my son is due to graduate this spring. He's in the class of 2020. Now, the class of 2020, tell you what, they're going to be a resilient bunch. They're going to be a creative bunch. They're going to be a strong bunch because they were born during 9/11 and they are graduating during coronavirus 19. Man, check in on one of the teenagers. Give them a call. Send them a Facebook note, or, go on Instagram where most of them live and just, say hi. Tell them you're praying for them. I think that'd be a really cool thing to do. Engage with positivity on social media. Engage with the love of the gospel on social media. I can't say that enough. How about pray for people and elicit prayers, even on social media? Just go out and say, hey, how can I pray for you today? And see what people say, and then pray for people. And then I would also say this, be generous during this time. I was reading this morning out of Psalms. It's Psalm of David. And David has lived some life here. So Psalm 37, 25 and 26 says, I was young and now I'm old. So, in between there is a lot of life. I was young and now I'm old. Yet in all of my living, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. Like God's people, he's never seen that. And he says, God's people, they're always generous. and they lend freely, and their children will be blessed because of that. So listen, this is a time for generosity, and the church is called in the book of Malachi a storehouse. And so I want to encourage us with our giving, with our tithing, to still bring that into the storehouse so we can be benevolent with people who have lost their jobs, who need food, or they have other needs. We should be known as people who give and not hoard. Think about that. It's kind of crazy that Christians would be hoarding toilet paper. Or I've been reading, crazy statistics about guns, and I'm not against guns. I think we have a right to bear arms and all of that, but gun sales is up like 400%. You can't find ammunition in the stores, and so it just seems like there's this attitude of lack of security in toilet paper and guns. And Christians, Jesus followers, should be known for our giving, not for our hoarding. Listen, I know this is real sensitive. I know there are people, and statistics say there's some 20 to 25% of us that are without jobs. And I want to pray for you. If you need help, you got to reach out. You can IM me, you can text me, email me, call the church. And so I want to be sensitive there. But then there are others that God is also continuing to take care of. And I just want to challenge you that when you give, you are messaging to the world where your security is. You are telling them who your security is. And I would also say when you tithe, when you give, when you remain faithful in this, you're also messaging to your great God, the only one who can save, that he indeed is your security. So give attention to people, loving, feeding, caring. Give of supplies that you may have, and then give of your finances. We've made it safe and easy to be generous at Crossview. You can go on our website, scroll all the way down, you can click and give, and it's done all digitally, and it might be time. This might be a good season for the church to kind of catch up with our digital world, and I would love to see more and more and more of our giving just go digitally anyhow. Listen, we want to be creative and aggressive with this message of hope, this message of the gospel, and we're doing that. I think last week we had some 10,000 engagements, reach views online. And so our audience has grown beyond Crossview, and we're teaching hope, and we're teaching fellowship, and we're teaching the gospel. And so some of these efforts, they have expenses tied to it. And you know this, I don't have to tell you this, but just be mindful. This big Easter outreach that we're going to do, drive-in church where people come in their cars, you can't get out of your car. You can wave at people. We think people are going to be very hungry just to see other people. We're going to flood the parking lot with Wi-Fi. We're going to have an FM transmitter that you can listen to it on your radio. We'll still be inside doing a live service. But we think a lot of people will take advantage of that. But there are expenses involved in the cost of that. Just be mindful of that, and be mindful that we're still trying to help with food relief efforts in our giving and with our money, and we're just a storehouse. So help us with that. The list can go on and on and on of all the things we're trying to do and why I'm asking you to be faithful with your giving. But here's what 1 John 3:17 and 18 says. This is out of the Message Bible. Eugene Peterson writes this. He said, if you see some brother or sister in need and have the means to do something about it, but you turn a cold shoulder and do nothing, what happens to God's love? It disappears. You made it disappear. My dear children, let's not just talk about love. Let's practice real love. So thanks for letting me maybe push a little bit of a hot button these days and just talking about generosity. Jesus talked about money and generosity often, and so we should not shy away as Jesus followers. Now, in way of announcements, you now are seeing that every day, Monday through Friday on social media, we have something posted. Usually it's 7 o'clock at night. Janelle on Monday with kids ministry. I do a live update now 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Steve does a Bible study 7 p.m. on Wednesday. You're getting your Thursday update. Here's the cool part. We just added our Friday slot, and we're calling this TGI Bri Day. Love that, TGI Bri Day, because Brian Sharp, our awesome worship leader, is going to come online and he's going to do a song. It may be a hymn. It may be a new song we're going to do, on the upcoming Sunday. But, we see artists rising up during the season. And so Brian and some of his friends, they're going to have a Friday slot as well. All right, don't forget Easter. And we're going to need your help getting the word out that Easter is drive-in church. Can't get out of your car, but you can see people. It's going to be awesome. Can't go in the church and use the bathroom. So just kind of get ready for that. But we hope that you'll share this. You'll let people know, and all of our parking slots will be filled with people to hear the hope of a resurrected Jesus, the hope of the gospel, and in a creative way. I think that's going to be really good. Now, next week, we're going to announce a couple classes online that we're going to be offering you. You can go online and hear live teaching. And here's one other big thing. I just want to push this really, really big. I need 10 people to help me. All right. A lot of people have been emailing, texting, Facebooking, messaging, calling the church going, how do I help? How do I help? Some people have extra time. So I'm looking for 10 people who just live on social media. Yeah, that's you. You're watching this. 10 people who live on social media. I need 10 people who will form the Crossview social media team. And these 10 people will each get 10 other people with everything we post to share that. Like, we need to boost our shares and our likes and our comments, because this is a message of hope, the gospel, that the work has been done on the cross, right? And so we get a rest in Jesus. Jesus, listen, if you just come to me, Jesus' burden is light. His yoke is easy. So let's just rest in him, because the heavy lifting was done. So help us get this message out. I need 10 people. Will you sign up? Will you message me right now? And then 10 people that will just help us get the word out. All right. After you've watched this video, I need you to comment. I need you to like. I need you to share. Looking forward to being online with you this Sunday. Thanks, Crossview. See ya. Bye.